All right, man, we'll go ahead and get it started, man. What's good, everybody? Welcome back to the Life of a Champ podcast. For today's episode 176, we're going to be talking about how to actually guarantee your success. And of course, you hear me saying that, and you're like, of course, you're not a full believer. So I'm going to approach this topic a little bit differently than most people would approach this topic because I've learned things that I would say not a lot of people know. So, a few things I want to mention before I go to get started. Make sure you go and follow me on Twitch, TikTok, and on Rumble as well. All at Life of a Champ podcast on all those platforms. Also, make sure you go ahead and leave a like on my YouTube shorts as well as my YouTube clips. I'll be posting more YouTube shorts in this upcoming week. So, tap in with that for sure. A lot of new content and a lot of good thought-provoking content. This is the entire intent with this podcast. It's not try to give you something to believe in, rather I'm trying to give you new perspectives for you to consider, right? I'm trying to give you thoughts that should at least challenge some of the ways in which you've thought previously. And that is my entire goal. I'm not trying to convince you of anything. I'm trying to just open your mind. So that is my entire goal with this podcast, and obviously to have good conversation with that as well. So, like I said, today's topic is gonna be similar to basically how to actually be successful. But I want a disclaimer. I need a few disclaimers before I actually get this started, right? For one, I have a previous podcast that I have done to define your own success because everybody's individual success is something different, and it's not exactly what society is trying to portray success to look like. Of course, everybody has their own definition of success, but not a lot of people are very, very clear and concise and structure what their definition of success looks like. So that's the first disclaimer I want to go ahead and mention. So it is it is it is for you to succeed and be successful in your own definition. So you need to define that for yourself before we can even get this started. So what does success look like to you? And maybe you can even try to look at other people's successes and try to emulate that or apply that to your definition of what success is going to look like. Like I said, when people talk about success, we do not all have the same definition. When I speak out of success, I'm only speaking out of my own personal paradigm, my own personal um, discovery of what it looks like for myself. So I'm not speaking like I said, when somebody speaks about success, they're speaking about it specifically, hopefully specifically for you, but usually they're speaking it from their own paradigm. But essentially, what I'm trying to do is trying to get you guys to think, right? What is your definition of success? That's what you must analyze first and foremost. Like I said, I have a previous podcast. If you're struggling with that and maybe need a little guidance with that, like I said, I'd recommend that podcast for you for sure. I can't remember what number it is. I've done 176 of these, so I can't remember specifically what number it is, but it's within my last 10 for sure. So check with that for sure. But essentially, the message that I'm trying to portray today is this, right? Success is going to look different for every single person, and along with that, I believe that it's going to look vibrationally, it's going to feel vibrationally different than what most people's success is going to look like. So yours individual, if I'm speaking to you right now, right? You must figure out your own vibration that will inevitably lead you down the path that you want to go, which is your success, right? Whatever that looks like to you. So you must find things that truly align with you, vibrationally speaking, align with you. I'm not trying to speak on this like mystical version of vibrations. Obviously, if you know anything about the universe, you know anything about the world, you understand that everything's a vibration. Everything that you choose to consume is a certain vibration, right? Everything that you decide to do is going to put you at a vibration, right? There's a lot of things that can influence your vibration. So you must be very, very careful with this, of course. So for me personally, the way that I figured this out best, like I said, because I figured out my own vibration, is by trying to listen to my own personal vocation, and I'm gonna explain that. I'm gonna explain that for the people that don't understand that, and I don't expect most people to understand that. But essentially, it is the voice within. It is the guiding factor that is essentially going to tell you what you should do and what you shouldn't do. Right? Some people ignore this. Some people don't even have it because they've ignored it for so long. So you have to figure this out for yourself, right? There's going to be things that you truly feel deep down in your heart, right, or deep down in your soul, that these things align with what you need to do and what you feel like you're meant to do, right? And like I said, for me personally, it is essentially was the guilt of my potential calling me to action, right? So if I decided to defy this in a specific way, my own self would be kicking my own ass essentially, right? This is going to look different for every single person. And this is, let me go ahead and mention this real quick. So, this is a concept that I've heard. A lot of people talk about, but the most popular version of this would be in the Book of Mastery by Robert Greene. It, like I said, it is what people would call the hidden force, or what Robert Greene called the hidden force. Essentially, it was it was like I said, for me, it was like I said, the potential, my potential self calling me to action, right? It would tell me if I'm headed down the right path and if I'm also headed down the wrong path. And if I'm headed down the wrong path, it would suggest for me to correct, or I would have to deal with the consequences of rejecting my potential. And obviously, if I'm a person who is aligning with that, vibrationally speaking, aligning with what my potential is telling me to go ahead and do, the path that it's telling me to go ahead and go forth with, it will also reward me for proving who I am to myself, who I say I am to myself. It is me proving who I am who I am that I say to myself, right? Like I said, some call it a voice, some call it a force, some call it even a star or even a daemon, which is a daemon is an inner or attendant spirit or inspiring force within of course. But essentially this is the guiding force that should influence you to make a certain decision or for you to not make a certain decision, right? And with that being said, this is essentially what I would define to be your vibration. Your vibration should tell you when things are off, and when things are more importantly on. And I feel like a lot of people they get caught up with society and their environments and little things like that truly can misguide them, right? A lot of people are misguided. A lot of people don't know what they want. A lot of people lack the clarity, and this is why I have this podcast, right? But I want to reemphasize the fact that there is a consequence, not only for me but for you, when you decide to not listen to your vocation, right? Or like I said, a guiding force, or whatever you want to call it for yourself, right? If you constantly don't give that enough respect, and you constantly say, it doesn't matter, right? And of course you're doing this all internally speaking, right? Hopefully, if you reject it, you should eventually feel some type of guilt. And like I said, life isn't meant to go the way that you want it to go when you start rejecting this. Though there will be things and obstacles that come in your way intentionally, because you decided to not go ahead and go forth with that. Because you decided to go ahead and reject your potential calling. Like I said, I'm only speaking from my paradigm, but hopefully you can apply that to what you have going on within your life, right? And of course, like I had mentioned earlier, right? You can be naturally inclined to reject it based off of your environmental circumstances. So this might be people, this might be society. Like I said, this might be your environment, but at the end of the day, it is what we would call a counterforce. So with a counterforce, obviously you need to be very very aware of what this is going to look like for you, right? So like I said, maybe you're doing something right now that doesn't exactly align with who you want to be, but you keep doing it because it is alluring, because it is comfortable, because it is safe, right? You keep doing these things, and like I said, even though it does give you some temporary amount of comfort, deep down that's probably not something that you should be doing, right? That is essentially the vocation. That is essentially the hidden force within. That should lead you down the path that you want to go ahead and go. And also, like I said, if you decide to go ahead and deter from that path, it should allow you to go ahead and hopefully fill you with guilt for not doing the things that you go ahead and do. And like I said, there's a lot of people right now, and I'm sure you know people within your life who have rejected this, and they live in a perpetual state of suffering to an extent. And like I said, even some people are very very good at masking this version of suffering, but nonetheless they're suffering. You can see very very well that they're not living the life that they want to go ahead and live. They much rather be doing and spending their time doing other things, but instead they're not. Like I said, they've rejected this time and time again, and therefore their circumstances would exactly provide you with the evidence that you would need to suggest that they are a person who has rejected what they've been called to do, or rejected, like I said, yeah, essentially what they're called to do. But with that being said, right? Like I said, there's going to be people, there's going to be environments, there's going to be circumstances that come up in life. Like I said, society are all going to be a counterforce, um, a contributing thing that's going to push you away from what you're meant to do, right? You must be very very aware of these things, and you must be able to observe society or observe people, observe society, observe situations from a broader perspective, and say, is this aligned? Is what this person's saying aligned with what I want, is who I want to be and what I would like to be like? The vibration, more importantly, the vibration that I would like to go ahead and vibrate at. So, with that being said, ask yourself the question. Maybe you're doing things. Maybe you're doing things that no longer serve you. Right? This is going to be what a lot of people do. A lot of people do things that maybe vibrationally speaking, it was aligned with them at one point in time, but no longer is aligned with them. They no longer it no longer serves a purpose within your life to continue to do these things, but you still do them because it's a comfortable thing. But little do you know, you're lowering your vibration, right? You could be vibrating at a higher frequency, but instead you decide to go with what's comfortable, and eventually, like anyone who's done any research on any success, obviously comfort is the enemy. Comfort is the enemy. You're in this life. You're not meant to be comfortable, right? And if anything, if you the more uncomfortable you are, potentially the higher your calling is, right? But you must stray away from being comfortable. And of course, there's going to be situations where you would like to be comfortable. And I'm not saying always be uncomfortable. 99% of your day you need to be uncomfortable. I'm not saying that. I'm saying uncomfortable to the point where you're on the edge of your seat of life, right? Where you don't know exactly what's going to happen next, and you're excited to see the result of what your actions could dictate, right? For the good or for the bad, right? But nonetheless, I want to kind of reemphasize what I mean by figure out your own vibration, because like I said, I've been slightly broad when I've been discussing this, right? Essentially, there are certain things that you'll naturally be attracted to, right? This is through my own personal perception I'm speaking out of, but this is something that I think can apply to many different people. So maybe this would be a certain type of music that you're interested in, right? For me personally, it's a certain type of artists that I'm actually drawn to, that I can see that the message that they're portraying is aligned with what I'm trying to do within my life, right? Vibrationally speaking, aligned with where I want to go and where I want to be. So therefore, I I I find affinity towards those certain types of music, right? So for example, right, my greatest example is my favorite artist, Big Sean. A lot of people do not understand his music because a lot of people do not vibrate at the frequency in which me and him go ahead and vibrate at. With that being said, like I said, it can be all telling, right? If you observe somebody's behavior, you can tell whether they're on a high vibration or not based off of what they do, what their inputs are, who they surround themselves with, whether they believe society or whether they don't believe society. You can tell a lot of different things about a person based off of certain actions and certain things that they go ahead and do, right? With that being said, there's going to be a lot more than just music that you're going to naturally be inclined to go ahead and be attracted to. So maybe this will be a certain creator. So maybe there's a certain person that you like that is in a position that you would like to be in, right? That would be you somewhat being attracted to that, vibrationally speaking, right? Or maybe this will be a certain type of information, or maybe this would be a certain type of curiosity that you have for any interest that you have. So maybe there's something there, right? Or maybe this could be some type of knowledge that you've always been interested in and you always want to go ahead and seek more of, right? These are things that we need to pay attention to as we are naturally inclined to go forth with these things. And like I said, the more that you can align and attach yourself to these certain things, the better off you're going to be vibrationally speaking. You're going to be more able to attract the things that you want within this life if you're able to vibrate at their frequency, but you must be very, very aware of what that looks like for you. Because, like I had mentioned, it's going to look different for every single person, right? Some people are going to understand certain things, and some people aren't going to understand certain things based off of that, right? But I feel like a lot of people they get caught up within society. They get caught up within their environment, and of course, everybody's a victim of society, and everybody's a victim of their environment to an extent. But you have the ability to control and overcorrect what has been written wrong, right? So like I said, maybe society has convinced you of something, but you deep down are a little bit skeptical, and maybe you're even doubting yourself of something that you should do, or maybe you shouldn't do, right? That is something that I feel like a lot of people need to pay attention to. Those little slight inclinations that you have, the little bit of resistance that you have, can be all telling. But yet, like I said, society is going to try to condition you a certain way, right? Environment and people are going to try to condition you a certain way. But you must be in tune with what you want, and obviously that takes a lot of clarity and a lot of self-analysis, of course. But you must be clear with what you want and what you align with, right? A lot of people don't know what to align with, so therefore they find things that aren't exactly aligned to where they want to go, because maybe they don't even know where they want to go, right? So they're kind of being misguided, like I had mentioned, right? Essentially, the concept that I'm talking about with figuring out your own vibration, this essentially should be the things that you're curious about, right? That your curiosity should attract you to the type of things and the type of ways in which you want your character to be like. And like I said, you must pay attention to this very, very carefully and stray the least amount that you possibly can. If you decide to go ahead and stray away from this, you're going to feel empty within. And that is probably one of the worst feelings that you can possibly feel. And that's why I made this podcast. I made this podcast to go ahead and inform you guys of the things that I feel like you guys should know. So with that being said, analyze certain things that you're going ahead and doing. Are you doing it truly for yourself? And I'm not saying that in a super selfish sense, but I'm saying, are the intentions correct, or are you simply doing things that you don't want to do for other people, right? Of course, anything and everything that you go ahead and decide to do for yourself, you should be trying to do for other people in some type of way. It might be indirectly, but in some type of way you should be doing that. But I feel like a lot of people, they become misguided because they keep hearing what other people have to say instead of listening to what their own self is saying. They neglect the voice within. They neglect the hidden force within. Because like I said, somebody's telling you something. And like I said, I'm not telling you what you should and what you shouldn't believe. I'm not telling you that at all. I'm saying observe it for yourself. Maybe there's something that I'm saying that makes sense, and maybe there's some things that I'm saying that don't make any sense to you, right? But with that being said, you must figure that out and you must come to the conclusion by yourself. Not exact you shouldn't have somebody say, "Hey, this is going to be best for you and this is also going to be worse for you," right? Maybe you can hear out what they're saying, but don't make a decision based off of what that person said. Make a decision based off of you analyzing and observing what that person has to say, and then analyzing how that makes you feel. How does that make you feel? Does that align with you, or does that not align with you? Or are you just going with the flow just to go with the flow, or is that something that actually resonates with you, right? This is what I've done for the longest time, and like I said, I haven't seen too many people who have been able to do this, right? So you watching this right now, maybe you vibrationally feel like you're aligned to the path that I'm pursuing right now, right? And maybe that's within your best interest, maybe it's not, right? But at the end of the day, you must be very, very self-aware when going about anything that you go ahead and do. Who are you doing it for? Are you doing it because society told you should do it? Or are you doing it because you yourself had a long discussion, and that through that discussion it suggested that was the best for you, right? A lot of people are misguided, and like I had mentioned, right? So I'll give you one example, right? This is what I hate to see, and this is something that I would never recommend for anyone to do. So there's going to be big life decisions that you need to make within this life, right? Huge life decisions you make. So like let's just say, for example, right? This is just one of many examples that I could use, but let's just say the example to go to college, right? Maybe deep down inside you're saying, I don't want to go to college. It doesn't exactly align with the person that I want to be or the character that I want to go ahead and develop. But my parents are telling me, society is telling me I should go to college. So I go to college. You see what I'm saying? You neglected what was said inside because of some external forces, the counterforce that I had mentioned earlier, that thinks that they have the best interest in mind for you, instead of analyzing it for yourself and saying, is this truly aligned with what I want to do? See, that's one example, but that's one example that I see way too often that happens because of some pressures outside. The pressures outside that don't exactly matter, because at the end of the day, those people and those pressures aren't going to be with you dealing with the situations that you're going to put yourself in based off of something that you didn't even want to do in the first place. So that's why you must analyze and listen to the inner voice within, because if you neglect that voice, you could be living a life that isn't even your life that you want to live. And that's a very, very shallow, that's a very, very sad existence in my opinion. Now, of course, you can potentially find some utility within that later on in life, but for me personally, and you hearing that and you observing that right now, is that a life that you want to live? A life where people are telling you, "Hey, this is what you should do, this is what you shouldn't do." and then there's no thought after that. You're simply just going along, going with the flow instead of, like I said, taking the time to have enough self-analysis to make that decision for yourself. A lot of people make decisions solely just because somebody told them to go ahead and make that decision. But like I said, you must analyze it for yourself because that's how you avoid situations that you don't want to be in life. And the more yeses you say to those in which go against the hidden force within, the more likely you are to steer off path of where you're supposed to go. And that is probably the problem where most people lie is that they kept listening to the counter forces, and essentially it took them down a path that they didn't even want to live in the first place because of one decision that started it all, where they said, oh, my parents told me to go ahead and do this. And of course you must analyze. I'm not saying don't listen to your parents, I'm not saying that, right? But I'm saying is you must take everything into consideration and then make your opinion yourself, and then make the decision yourself. It's too often where people have the external forces that create the life for them. But like I had mentioned before, in those circumstances of life, the consequences of you not listening to the hidden force within, that's going to guide you down a certain path. And you might be too late. You can get to a point where it's too late, and now you're not even living life for yourself anymore. You're not living the life that you wanted to live. You're living the life that everyone told you to live. Instead of analyzing to see if that was actually something that you wanted or not. All I'm trying to do is get people to avoid that path. So if you're a person that feels right now that you're living a life that isn't exactly the way that you want to go ahead and live, you must take control and start listening to the hidden force within that's going to guide you down the path that you're meant to go down. Because the more you listen to the external world instead of looking within, of course, like I said, the external world is meant to influence you a certain way. And of course, you can select certain things that are going to be within your own perceived best interest that should influence you. But at the end of the day, it's up to you to make that final decision. Does it align with you vibrationally speaking? Does it truly align with you, or does it not? This has been an advantage that I've had that I haven't seen a lot of people take true advantage of, and something that I'm truly grateful to be in the position that I'm in, doing the things that I want to do, to being the person that I want to be, instead of hearing other people out and taking exactly what they have to say and not doing any self-analysis to see that lines with what I believe in and what I stand for. The more your actions align with your future you want for yourself, the higher your frequency is. That's why people are at a low frequency. They are living for others instead of themselves. And I'm not, and I know what you mean by that, Jaden. Exactly. Essentially, there's certain ways that you must be for yourself in order to be for other people. But you shouldn't be doing for other people and then doing for yourself. That doesn't make any sense. And of course, there's going to be certain nuance to this, right? Of course, just with everything. But essentially, what she's saying is there's certain times where you need to live for yourself and make the decisions that are best for yourself, and then you can consider everybody else. And I'm not saying be selfish. I'm not saying that. I'm saying you have to live with your life. So make sure it's the true life that you want to go ahead and live, because if not, you're going to be living for other people and not living for yourself. Essentially, you affecting other people needs to be a byproduct of you being the person that you need to be for yourself first and foremost, so you can be the greatest version for everyone else. Because if not, if you're living for other people, there's no way. If you're living solely based off of the influences of other people, how are you meant to live? How are you meant to live a truly fulfilled and successful life, like we mentioned earlier, that you need to define for yourself, if you are going along with somebody else's blueprint? It would make no sense for yourself. You see what I'm saying? Yeah, so that's pretty much what I have to say. Like I said, hopefully you guys understand what I'm trying to say. But you must do things that are aligned with you vibrationally speaking. Of course, that takes a lot of self-observation and self-analysis for you to go ahead and make that decision for yourself. But at the end of the day, don't be living solely based off of what somebody said. Take some time for you to analyze it yourself to make sure it's the right decision for you to go ahead and make for yourself, or else you'll be living an existence that somebody had constructed for you instead of you constructing it yourself. A lot of people convince themselves that they're truly in control, but yet if you look at the decisions that they made and the reasons in which they made that, It all boils down to somebody telling them that they should do this instead of them saying themselves, yes, I heard what this person had to say, I heard what this person had to say, and now with all that information, I'm going to take the time to analyze whether this is something I want to do or that this is something that I don't want to do. Said this before, you have to be selfish first the right way in order to be selfless later. That's great, Jaden. I appreciate you writing that up. And I want to kind of get into the second part of this podcast, right? Because this is probably something that most people could truly resonate with, right? There's going to be certain times where you fall out of this vibration, and even for myself, right? There's plenty of things that I have done that have not been aligned to me vibrationally speaking, right? Where there's certain actions that I've taken, there's certain habits that I've adopted, there's certain characteristics that I've contributed to that exactly were making me fall out of line of my true vibration that I knew I needed to vibrate at in order for me to be the best self that I need to be, and more importantly, the best self that I need to be able to provide for everyone else, right? So with that being said, usually that's going to look like you doing things. It's typically going to look like you doing things that you've done in the past that it no longer serves you, which is something that I mentioned earlier, right? But that alone is going to essentially what has gotten you here is not what's going to take you to where you want to go. Not all the time, right? There's going to be certain things that you must evolve past, and there's certain things that you must be called to in order to get to the place where you're trying to go. Essentially, like I'd mentioned before, your own definition of success, right? And essentially, when you look to define your own definition of success, it's going to look essentially like you vibrationally aligning to what you need to go ahead and vibrate at in order to get the things that you want to get out of this life, not anyone else, right? Society, like I said, society is going to help you. It should influence you to an extent to hopefully construct that your own perception of what success actually looks like. But obviously you must curate it carefully. So there's certain things that I've curated personally that have aligned me more to the frequency that I want to go ahead and be aligned with, that are going to take me to the places that I want to go ahead and go, right? So you must figure those things out for yourself, or else you're going to be vibrating at a foreign frequency, and that is the worst life to go ahead and live, because you're no longer living for yourself selflessly. You're living for yourself in other people's sense of selfishness, if that makes any sense. Hopefully you understand what I'm trying to say. So you must figure this out for yourself. Once you start to feel yourself fall out of line of this vibration, this certain way of being, maybe there's been certain points in time of your life where you felt more vibrationally aligned. Maybe you felt like things were going your way. Maybe you felt like you were making the right decisions within your life, right? When you start to begin to feel your vibration lower, right? So maybe your confidence starts to go down. Maybe, and I would say essentially that's what it could stem from, right? It's obviously a lot more than your confidence, but essentially there's many different things that can contribute to a lowering of confidence, right? But essentially what I would say is that essentially could be potentially your vibration lowering. So with that being said, you must figure out what's going to raise your vibration to the frequency which you need to go ahead and vibrate at in order to attract the things that are meant for you, right? For me personally, it's getting back to certain mindsets. It's getting back to certain habits that I had. It's getting back to certain music that I love to listen to, that put me in the right state of mind, that put me in the right vibrational frequency, right? Or maybe this is, getting back and getting surrounded by people who, when I was around those people, I was feeling my best self, right? Or maybe it was making the right sacrifices and, like I said, choosing the right habits that are going to suggest me being better myself, right? Essentially, all these things are meant to either elevate or lower your vibrational frequency. And with that being said, what is going to align best for you? There should be certain things that you know. Maybe there's even people that you know who, when you're around them, you can feel your vibration go down. They're not a very very positive person. So let's just say you're maybe slightly above positive or slightly above neutral, and you're maybe a little positive sometimes, right? But you hang around that one person, and you could just tell just by hanging. They just zap your energy, man. They lower your vibrational frequency just by even being around them. You don't even have to talk to them. You just need to be in the same room as them, and you feel your vibration going down. And also, and I'm sure you guys have felt this before, when you start to hang around certain people and you can feel your vibration go up, you feel like you hit a different level. It's obviously all somewhat unconscious, but you can feel like there's a difference. There's a clear difference between hanging out with somebody who's gonna elevate your frequency and somebody who's definitely going to lower your frequency, right? You want to obviously surround yourself with people who are going to obviously elevate your frequency. And with that being said, there's going to be certain things, there's going to be certain music that you're attracted to, like I had mentioned. There's going to be certain music that you listen to that are going to that should feel, if you resonate with music, right? You should feel it to begin to elevate your frequency. And also, there should be certain music that you listen to where you're like, holy shit, why do people listen to this? It's trash. And it lowers my frequency. You see what I'm saying? But this goes with everything. Those are just some quick examples, but that just goes with everything that I mentioned on today's episode. There's certain mindsets that you have that you can observe that you had when you're at your higher frequency. You must get in tune with those within those certain things. And then what you must do, and this is what I've done, and this is what I strive to do every single day, is align yourself with those. Remind yourself of that vibration, and say, this is the way that I want to be. This is the way that I deserve to be. This is the way that I deserve to be for the people who deserve the best version of me. And that is how you change and attract the things that are meant for you, is by consistently being at that frequency and rejecting the things that lower your frequency. For me personally, this looks like not going on my phone in the morning, and I try my best to go ahead and do that, because I know when I go ahead and do that, my frequency starts to begin to lower. And I don't know if you feel that yourself, but observe it for yourself. When you wake up, if you automatically fill your mind with things that are not as important, you should feel your vibration start to lower. That's just what it is. And also, if you started the morning every single day with maybe some mindsets that you can remind yourself of, maybe surrounded by people you love, maybe by listening to certain music that's going to elevate your frequency. If you start the day like that, now imagine where you could go if you live like that every single day. And of course, it's not going to happen every single day. Obviously, everything goes up and down, of course. And you can't 100% be in control of your environment always. That's not how life works exactly. But with the opportunity that you have to go ahead and control certain aspects and curate a certain lifestyle for yourself, you should begin to be able to notice certain differences. And I want you to go ahead and observe that within your life, right? When you're going about your day-to-day life, when you surround yourself within a certain environment, when you surround yourself, or maybe you're listening to a certain song, or maybe you're seeing yourself leaning into this certain mindset, right? There should be a difference in your frequency. You should be able to feel the difference, right? This is something that I've observed so carefully within myself, which is why I do the things that I do, which is why I am the ways that I am, which is why I have the mindsets that I do, which is why I listen to the music that I listen to, which is why I hang around the certain people that I hang around with, which is why I take up certain habits and have certain characteristics of myself that I do. It's because I've recognized that there's a counterforce. There's a clear counterforce that lowers my vibrational frequency. And there's a clear difference of when I consume these certain things that automatically put me at a higher frequency. That elevate no matter what my state is at, that if I consume these certain things, if I remind myself of these certain things that at a past time helped me to get to where I am today, if I remind myself of these things, I can feel, like I said, regardless of how I'm feeling, I can feel my vibration start to go up. Maybe I start to be more positive. Maybe I start to be more happy. Maybe I start to be more fulfilled. Maybe I start to be more grateful and thankful. Maybe I start to feel a little bit more lucky. Maybe I'm starting to feel more blessed. You see what I'm saying? And those are the frequencies you want to go ahead and vibrate at, because those are the frequencies that I've observed, and probably you too have observed, that have worked in your interest, work best in your interest, right? So from there you must be able to create. You must curate your environment as much as you possibly can. Obviously, like I had mentioned, you're not going to be able to always control your environment. But the moments that you do, the moments where you feel off for a reason. You know that, right? You just don't feel off because one day maybe you didn't get some good sleep. You feel off for a reason. So figure out that reason and figure out the solution. That's where most people go wrong is they stay vibrationally lowered for months at a time, for weeks at a time, for years at a time because they're not in tune. You see what I'm saying? They're not in tune with the vibrational frequency that's going to lead them to the place that they want to go ahead and go, the person that they want to go ahead and be, the mindsets they want to go ahead and adopt, right? That is the clear difference between the people who are vibrating at a higher frequency and the people that are vibrating at a lower frequency. There's a clear difference, and you must be careful. You must be observant enough to see the subtle differences within both of these people. And by doing that, you can begin to have some type of control over your life with that sense, because now you know things that most people don't know. And at the end of the day, like I said, I'm not telling you what you should and shouldn't do. I'm not telling you should do this certain thing or you shouldn't do this certain thing. I know it can come off that way, but essentially what I'm trying to say is you know better than anyone. So you must act as if you know better than anyone. Only you know what's gonna make you vibrate at a higher frequency, and only you know what's gonna make you lowered in your own frequency. So the second that you can begin to align yourself to the proper state and vibrational frequency that you know you need to vibrate at, the more successful you're going to be. Because it's only right. It would only make sense that you're going to be able to be successful in that frequency. The difference between the people that you want to be like and the people that you don't want to be like is the people that you want to be like are vibrating at the frequency that they want to vibrate at. Not what society tells them they should vibrate at. That's the clear difference. So observe that within yourself. What vibration do you want to go ahead and vibrate at? What's your frequency? Figure that out for yourself. What's your ideal frequency? What were the subtle things when life started to feel great? What were the subtle things that you go ahead and did? What was the mindsets that you had instilled within yourself, that you reminded yourself of? What were the states and feelings that you were feeling at that time? And how can when you see yourself begin to lower in frequency, how can you remind yourself of those things? What would be an ideal way to go about that to put you back on track and on the right path that you want to be on? Not what I want you to be on, not what society wants you to be on, but what you want yourself to be on. That's the most important thing within this life. If you want to be successful, vibrate at the frequency in which you want to vibrate at, and hopefully that's a high frequency. Appreciate everyone stopping by so far. Obviously, I'm getting preachy, but hopefully you understand what I'm trying to say, and hopefully you can take something from this. If you have enjoyed the podcast so far, make sure to go ahead and leave a like. And also, if you're rewatching this, make sure to go ahead and let me know your favorite part from this podcast so far. Give me 1 second. I'll get into the rest of the podcast. I have a few more things that I want to go ahead and mention. I actually have a lot more than what I anticipated, man. All right, give me 1 second. All right. Yeah, man. Like I said, I kind of got off on my own little rant. So let me see. Let me go ahead and pick up where I left off, man. But I really believe that through careful curation of your environments and your inputs, you can properly lead yourself. And like I said, maybe it's listening to certain content creators. Maybe it's listening to certain music. Maybe it's adopting certain habits. Maybe it's picking up on certain ways of being which you've enjoyed within the past, right? Align with those things because those things are going to be able to bring the best version of you out. And obviously you should be trying and striving your best to go ahead and be that because the second that you can be that is the second that your entire life can truly change just based off of that. This is something that I've observed and something that I knew once I've observed it carefully enough that once I was doing something that wasn't exactly contributing to the vibrational frequency that I want to vibrate at, I was already in the wrong. I didn't feel right. And there was a reason why I didn't feel right. It's because I wasn't being who I know I needed to be. How was I ever meant to achieve success when I wasn't feeling the ways in which I needed to feel in order to even attract success? My own version of success. You see what I'm saying? You should begin to create an ideal identity based off of the things that lead you to where you want to be best vibrationally, right? Align with those things, and like I said, be very, very careful. And like I said, maybe test some things out yourself, man. Maybe this is going to work within your interest, and maybe this isn't going to work within your interest. Maybe when you do this certain thing, you feel best, and maybe when you do this certain thing, you don't feel best. Maybe when you hang around this certain group of people, maybe it's even close friends that you have. Maybe when you hang around this group of friends, you feel your vibration start to go down. And maybe when you do these certain things or hang around these certain people, you can feel it elevate. Like I said, I'm not saying this. When I say vibrationally speaking, I'm not saying that, like, this isn't something that people should be unaware of. This is something that I've been aware of for such a long time. But now it's up to you, and maybe this is new information, but it's up to you to go ahead and decide what your success looks like to you. What feelings do you need to have, right? Hold on. Let me get into the next thing, man. One thing I want to get with this as well, like I said, with being at a certain vibrational frequency that's going to be ideal to you, right? There should be some type of emotion that can be provoked from being this certain way, right? And you must tap into that emotional side, because most people don't tap into this emotional side, and then they never get anything out of this, right? What emotion would you need to feel in order to accomplish your goals that you have set out for yourself, and put yourself and you must put yourself in that state emotionally, right? So if you're a person who is grateful, thankful for the success that you would have, right? Put yourself in that way of being right now. Because the second you can start to feel that right now, you're getting a taste of what that's going to feel later on. That should be success on its own, is certain mindsets. Trust me. Like I said, success isn't a place that you get to. Success all comes within first, is by being the person that you know you need to be. That is true success. Success can be a lot of things. At least I'm speaking out of my own personal paradigm, of course. My own personal paradigm of success, right? Maybe that doesn't align with you, and that's okay. But like I said, I can only speak for myself when I talk about success, of course. But you must use the emotions to your advantage instead of them being looked at as a disadvantage. That's for sure. The second you could put yourself in that emotional state that is going to work it within your best interest is the second that you can start to elevate your vibrational frequency, for sure. And one thing I want to mention as well, maybe you've never been at the ideal vibrational frequency that you need to vibrate at. So maybe what I'm saying is something foreign that you've never felt for yourself, right? Maybe that's what it is. Maybe you kind of understand what I'm saying with, you kind of did something and it felt good, but you don't really have enough evidence that would suggest that feels good, or maybe this doesn't feel as good, right? If you're struggling to observe through all the things that I've mentioned, if you're struggling to observe what is going to elevate your frequency, and more importantly, what's gonna lower your frequency, you must begin to ask yourself questions, and you must be able to try new things. Maybe, like I said, maybe it's building new habits, maybe it's taking on new mindsets, maybe it's creating a new identity for yourself that like I said, that are going to be aligned with what you observe to be your own definition of success, and then try it out yourself. Does this work out for you, or does this not work out for you? Does this feel like the right thing, or does it feel like the wrong thing? Do you feel yourself elevating in frequency, or do you clearly feel yourself not? And other people can't tell you what this is and what this isn't for you. Only you can decide this for yourself. Through hours and hours of self analysis, and more importantly, curation, right? So there's certain things that I thought growing up that were best for me, but then I learned later on that this isn't the best thing for me. But but most people just stay in this, oh yeah, this is the best thing for me. And they never elevate. You see what I'm saying? You must you must begin to elevate by observing the things that no longer suit you, and through careful, like I said, analysis and self-observation, you must begin to curate things over time to see if these things still align with where you want to go and whether they don't. Life is about evolving. Life is about evolving. So you need to make sure that you're still evolving, right? Hold up, man. Hold up, man. One thing I want to mention, and like I said, I find this interesting as well, is essentially you listening to yourself is pretty much believing in that, let's just say, metaphorical angel on your shoulder, right? What is that angel on your shoulder trying to tell you? What is that person what is that positive influence trying to suggest for you that's going to better your life? And more importantly, if you don't listen to that voice, you're a lot closer to hell than what you think. That's for damn sure. The farther you stray away from this voice, the more that you ignore this voice within yourself, the closer you are to hell, or this metaphorical version of what hell could look like, right? You're closer to that because you're not listening to what you need to listen to. You must listen to the wisdom that you've acquired. Hopefully, if you do that, or you'll live like everyone else. Observe how everyone else is living. This has been a constant theme within my podcast, is observe the way people are living. Are they living the way that you want to go ahead and live? If they're not living the way that you want to go ahead and live, you must begin to do things that are different than what they're doing. Because if not, you have no other choice but to live like those people. It's as simple as that. And like I mentioned on previous podcasts, right? A lot of people walk around here knowing that they shouldn't do certain things, but yet they continue to go ahead and do them. They walk around as walking contradictions. They know what they're doing is wrong, but yet they still continue to act. And here's the thing, a lot this is where I find it very, very interesting, right? Sometimes they feel like they get away with it too. But you don't get away with anything in this life. You don't get away with anything within this life. There's certain things that you can do that might feel good within the moment right now, right? But little do you know, long term are going to directly affect you. But maybe right now in the moment, it's not something that is directly affecting you. So therefore, you think it's okay to go ahead and do, right? But like I said, that's how you live like everybody else, man. That's exactly how you live like everybody else. You must be able to figure that out for yourself. Are you doing things that are going to make you a walking contradiction? Are you doing things that you know that you should do? And are you doing those things? Like I said, are you vibrationally aligning to where you need to go ahead and vibrate at? And like I said, observe the things that you're going ahead and doing right now, right? Maybe by you doing certain things, and maybe you know these things to be wrong, but yet you're not. You continue to do them because there's no direct consequence. Life isn't always going to be a direct consequence. There's going to be certain things that you do that are going to give you an indirect consequence. You can't see it right now, and like I said, if you partake in a certain, let's just say for example, right? Getting back on topic, let's just say you decide to go ahead and vibrate. You know this, like most people, and you choose to vibrate at a lower frequency. Let's just say whatever it is to you. Maybe it's listening to certain music. Like I said, I can go on and on about what it is, what that's going to be defined for you, right? Let's just say you do these certain things, and right as of right now, you really don't see any really negative consequences. But if you continue to vibrate at that lower frequency, life is going to pass you by. Opportunities are going to pass you up. You're going to be unlucky. You're not going to be in a state of being grateful and thankful, right? And these things, even though they don't give you a direct consequence, you're indirectly affecting the entire trajectory of your entire life based off of something that you know to be wrong. So that is why you must act with integrity. You must act with true inner strength by doing the things that you know you need to go ahead and do, aligning to the things that you need to go ahead and align with, vibrationally speaking, and moving away from the things that you know you shouldn't do, or the things that are going to lower your vibrational frequency. And it's as simple as that, right? So I pretty much said everything I needed to say for today's episode. If you're in the comments, I appreciate you for stopping by. Like I said, if there's anything that I said in this podcast that you've liked, make sure you go ahead and tap in and let me know for sure, whether you're rewatching this or watching this live. I'd appreciate any and every comment for sure. One thing I want to mention as well, this is something that I've observed within people's behavior as well, and it's something that I mentioned on a previous podcast before, but I think this is worth mentioning, right? There's a lot of people that lower their frequency and they perceive it to be good. So they take the good what feels nice, what feels convenient, what feels easy, right? They take the good instead of trying to get the great. And in the end, they end up with the average. Think about that for a second. Think about that for a second. And with that being said, when it comes to the vibrational frequency that I've been talking about all along, you must always remember this. You are either in a positive counter loop, you're either moving up, in vibrationally speaking, you're either moving up or you're moving down in a negative counter loop. There's really no static. You're either progressing or you're regressing. You're either elevating your vibrational frequency or you're bringing it down. So analyze for yourself. When you go through your day-to-day life, how are you living it? Are you consciously deciding to do things that are going to elevate your frequency, or are you unconsciously doing things that are lowering your frequency? Make that decision for yourself. And like I had mentioned before, this podcast was how to actually guarantee success, your success, right? The only way for you to actually guarantee your success is by being the person that you know you need to be, vibrationally speaking, by doing and acting the things that you know you need to act out and do. The farther you stray away from that, there's no way in hell you'll be successful. There's no way in hell you will be the person that you want to be if you constantly choose the things that are going to lower your frequency. So be very, very conscious and aware with this. Now, when you move on with this through your day-to-day life, be very, very conscious and observant of these things, because if not, like I'd mentioned, life will pass you by. You'll be saying things that don't exactly align to your actions, and that's obviously misleading. That's obviously not being a person of your word. That's obviously being a walking contradiction. And out here, man, I'm not trying to get you to be a walking contradiction. I don't want you out here looking goofy. I don't want to look goofy. I don't want my people to look goofy. So therefore, be very, very conscious and aware of these things. This is something that I've been consciously aware of for a long time now. I know when I'm doing something that's wrong, and I know when I'm doing something that's right. You know when you're doing something that's wrong, and you know when you're doing something that's right. You know what things are going to elevate your vibrational frequency, and you know, and maybe you won't admit it, the things that are lowering your vibrational frequency. Get rid of the things that don't serve you anymore and start doing the things that you know are best for you. And the fact that I even have to say that is insane, but hopefully you've taken something from this podcast. This was episode 176 of the Life of a Champ podcast, talking about how to guarantee your success. I'll leave you guys off with the podcast motto. I don't know if I mentioned on the last podcast, but fellas out here, man, we don't just work around here, man. We outwork. So make sure you're outworking these motherfuckers, because you know that I am, and you know the people that are watching this. We are. That's all I have to say. Y'all have a good night. Next podcast is going to be on Thursday. Look forward to more streams coming up here soon. Like I said, make sure you go ahead and tap in with the YouTube Shorts as well as the YouTube clips. Follow me on TikTok, Rumble, and Twitch, all at Life of the Champ podcast. And it is just like that, man. So y'all have a good night. Like I said, next podcast is going to be on Thursday. Hopefully y'all like this one. And more game on the way, man. Y'all have a good night, man.